Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. John Henry Soto here, as always, with you. It is April 7th, 2026, 7 a.m. here in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a live morning space for artists, filmmakers, musicians, and creators who are navigating the real world of making art. On this show, we talk about positivity, but not the fluffy kind. We talk about what actually stops artists from moving forward, the struggles we all face, and how to move through them with clarity and purpose. We'll also highlight good things happening in the industry, share ideas, suggestions, and practical advice, and most importantly, have honest conversations. This is a live show, so if you're here, feel free to ask questions or join in. This is the place to reset, get grounded, and start the day moving forward as an artist. And welcome in, everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. It is a beautiful day here. It's going to be a beautiful weather. We're having clear skies here in Nashville, Tennessee. I hope you're doing well. I just had someone here on my other platform here say that it snowed up in Albany. Welcome in, Blue, as well. So snow still happening here in the country. Here in Nashville, the snow is all gone. The ice is gone. Remember the ice storm? Anybody that was here in Nashville when we had trees exploding? Man, I'm from the Bronx, man. I'm not used to no trees exploding anywhere. I mean, that freaked me out. No, it didn't freak me out, but it was actually pretty cool. But it was wild. It was cool and wild. So we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to read a few things, and I'm just going to just have some commentary on being bored. Do you remember being bored? And this came to me from a video clip that I saw from George Batista, who's my co-host on Sunday night's show, and I had something like this planned that I wanted to talk about as well. It was basically the space between the silence, and I wanted that boredom, when there was what where is the boredom? First there's silence, and then something happens, right? And then there's silence, and then something happens, and in between this silence, there used to be a thing called boredom when we were kids, and it was you had to go figure out something to do. You had to go figure out, I don't know, you had to go figure it out, and I would go play with, I had some action figures growing up. I had books. I like reading. I had records. I would play music. I'd play, the television was obviously a thing, but I didn't really watch a lot of television growing up. I watched my grandparents. I was raised by my grandparents, so I watched a lot of public television because that was a brand new thing, and the word was out that public television was educational television. And my grandmother thought, "Oh, this is good. He'll get educated. He'll get some education while he's watching TV." And boy, I got to tell you, now I really look back at it with tremendous appreciation because I got to see, the Sesame Street and Mister Rogers and Electric Company and all those shows. And you know, now people are on their phone. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, somebody here says they're on their phone, which is so true. They can't just go for a little bit of just being bored, you know. And I struggle with that myself. Someone who works in this medium and constantly marketing and promoting and doing certain things. As a filmmaker, you're always promoting as a musician as well, and all the stuff that you have to get in. Plus this show, it's so I'm constantly on my phone, and but one thing that I do is that I put the phone down and I pick up my guitar and I play a little bit. Sometimes I even sit on the couch, and that's it. I don't do anything. I just sit on the couch. And sometimes it's not even that's not even easy for me. So I have two kids, and it's very difficult for them to have any kind of any kind of time where there's nothing going on. They have to be doing something. There used to be a space between moments, a quiet gap where nothing was happening, and that nothing was actually everything. That space is where ideas formed, where imagination stretched its legs, where creativity had room to breathe. Boredom, boredom wasn't the enemy, it was the doorway. It forced you to sit with your thoughts, to explore your inner world, to create something out of nothing. Today, that space is constantly filled. The second silence appears, we reach for a screen. The mind no longer wanders, it scrolls. Exactly what you said, Blue. It just scrolls. And this is part of the insanity that the world is going through right now with technology, and not to mention now we have AI doing so much as well. Um, but you know what really gets me sad is the creativity part of it, because while these kids are being just not even kids, just everyone is being inundated, has a lot of influx of information and screens, and there's no lull, there's no time where you can create. The creativity that we have is less. Those people that are going to come up with a great song or a great script or a great piece of artwork, whatever the case may be, that time is now filled. That time when they would have created something that really could have changed the world and really could have influenced a lot of people and really would have been beautiful, that space now has been filled with screen time, with other people's entertainment, right? Even people who are watching this show right now, right? You know, hopefully you're watching something that will help you, inspire you, and maybe give you a different viewpoint about life, and make you, and that's what this show is about. It's not about uh uh fluff stuff, as I say in the beginning of this, right? This is about positivity, but not the fluffy kind, right? And I think part of that is a challenge because we ourselves as adults also use these phones and these devices in order to alleviate um, boredom. I mean, have you ever gone out and people just sit down somewhere and immediately they go for their phone? Instead of just sitting down and looking around, smiling, maybe. I don't know. You might look crazy nowadays, but I do that. I try really, really hard not to scroll when there's, like, if I'm in a meeting, for instance, with people, you never go to your phone. I take my phone and I put it down. I don't look at it unless I'm expecting an important call. I make that announcement. Or if I say my kids are going to be calling me, I make that announcement at the beginning. So I have my phone there. So if I see it going off, they know, everybody's been made aware of, but I don't sit with people that I know and scroll on my phone. I think that's tremendously rude. And also, you're missing the whole point of what it means to be around other people. There is a shift coming, though. People are starting to want to be together. They want to start experiencing life after the last 5 years when we were told not to get near each other. Things are, people are waking up to what nonsense that was. And that's becoming a big, big story now. And people are getting very, very uh, angsty and wanting to be together with people, right? So we're living in a time where content is endless, immediate, and always within reach. And while it has its advantages, it also quietly it's also quietly reshaping how we think and create. When everything is longer, when everything I'll start that again. When everything is given to you, entertainment, answers, stimulation, there's no longer a need to imagine. Inspiration doesn't have time to arrive because there's no pause for it to land. Creativity requires stillness, but stillness has become uncomfortable. We've trained ourselves to avoid it, and in doing so, we may be cutting ourselves off from the most original ideas, as I was mentioning. We need that time. We need that space where nothing is going on. I think it's an incredible time right now where we have this amazing technology that can do so much for us, but we're losing ourselves. We're losing our creativity. We're losing that stillness where we can sit with our thoughts and come up with ideas and be creative. Good morning, Kimberly. Welcome in. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, this topic came to me from watching my son not be able to just sit. He was bored. We had a problem with the internet. Everything was down. Everybody was like freaking out. I'm like, relax. It's fine. And they just I realized that this is it's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy when you think about it, because you really you want to try to push your children to be to be inspired by something. You want them to reach for something. But how can they reach for something in their own creative space if they're constantly being given the information to look at. They're constantly, it's being created for them, and some of it not in if with good intentions in mind. Some of it is being pushed, and it's some of it is very aberrated, and some of it is very it has a purpose to guide the individual, adult or child, to where they want them to look, and taking their eye line and holding their attention and making them almost in a trance, and putting them in this trance, and then controlling them, and then indoctrinating them into how they should think, and how they should dress, and I know television was doing that for many years. Um but there was a difference in the television. There was a big thing in the middle of well, I'm old, so I remember just the big piece of furniture in the middle of the living room, which didn't move, it didn't go anywhere, and the adults wanted to watch something, the kids were not able to watch. That was just the rules, and that was it. And now we have just so much. These devices are just so endlessly filled with things. Even the people who this is a wellness talk with George Batista, my co-host. He says, when the people who created much of the technology that is used today had those initial ideas, when they sat without distractions and thought, yeah, and thought about a need. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they themselves did that. Matter of fact, some of them are retracting their ideas and saying, don't get your kids on that. I agree. Kimberly says, how many kids do you see outside playing anymore? Yep, not many. There is no more freedom of imagination. Yeah, that is true. I bought my son a bike, and his next door neighbor has a bike, so we have them go outside. They ride around here, and then once they get out there and they start exploring things and they start looking around and kind of getting back into the environment, they realize, oh, this is fun, and they find things and their imaginations kick in again. But it's that initial push out the door, be like, get your ass outside, boy, because it's like they just want to sit in front of those screens forever. Kimberly says we played outside from dusk till dawn. Yeah, it was what was called community. Social media, yeah, social media. I do think we had it easier then. I agree. I would leave my house in the morning and not come back till nighttime. That was just the way it was. And even though I grew up in a pretty dangerous environment, where I grew up in the South Bronx during rough years, that little area where I grew up in, everybody knew everyone. We were close. It was just a different. Even though it was kind of crazy, I didn't stay out too late at night because the freaks come out at night, right? The freaks come out at night. I just decided, my mom actually decided, I'm coming in early, my grandparents as well. And, but once you're out there, you're able to not only just be creative, but you're also able to have conversations with other kids that were unique. I remember conversations having, with kids, that were very, very special. And it opened up my creativity. It opened up my mind to ideas, to be a better communicator. All those things were just part of it. Today, all these kids are like hunchback, right? There's a thing now happening with people on their necks. Chiropractors are making a fortune because of these devices. There's everyone's like this on their computers, they're like this on their phones, and they try to sit up straight, and it's like they jack themselves up. So there's a lot of that. So maybe the biggest shift is what's happening with the next generation. Kids today rarely experience true boredom. They're constantly engaged, constantly stimulated, and constantly distracted. But without boredom, something important is missing. That quiet discomfort is what once pushed us to invent games, tell stories, pick up instruments, or dream up entire worlds. I mean, I think about this too. And George, I don't know if you're still on, but George and I are musicians, and we played in a band early in our lives, and we had to sit with our instruments sometimes 10 hours a day playing music, and it was just an obsession with us, and we loved it more than anything. And it was an incredible just an incredible time where we just listened to music, and then we would try to emulate those sounds with our instruments, and it was just great. Kimberly says I grew up in what some call the hood, but it was what we made of it. That growing up and being with all different cultures really inspired me. I wanted to learn more. I love that. I love that. That's exactly right. You have so many different people that you can learn from when you're growing up in the hood, and it's just it gets lost, you know. But I think about me and George, teenagers playing our instruments and trying to learn how to play. If we had social media back then, I think about this all the time, and I don't know about what George thinks about this, but or Kimberly, but if I had social media when I was a say 9 years old, 9 to 15, my whole life would have been completely different. I don't even know if I would have played. I mean, I would have been so distracted by these phones. Yeah, George says, I think about would we have been as good if we had all this? Oh yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah, I don't think we would have been as good. I don't think we would have played enough, good enough. How can you, right? It makes no sense because if we would have allowed, and if we grew up with social media, not just like it came to us at the age of 15 or something like that. I'm talking about if my kids don't know a life without it. My kids don't know what it's like to not have these devices. My daughter is 15, my son is 9. My son grew up, my Facebook is older than my son. So doesn't know anything about it, about life without it. So I think about what is it that he's interested in that maybe he's missing out on. He was into jump roping, like he was a really really good jump roper. He even had a couple of really famous jump ropers follow him on his Instagram account that I created and managed for him with his jump rope. Right, he just stopped doing it one day and back to the screens and back playing games, and he's got friends that he talks to that we know who that he's talking to on there playing games. And it became really just a sad thing to see that creativity go away, and that physical creativity, playing guitar, playing drums. It's a very physical sport, basically, right? It's a physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's this whole connection of everything. And I know I wouldn't have been the man that I am today if I did not have that growing up. It was very, very important to me. It still is. And so I'm trying to figure out ways. And George, maybe we can do a show on this and elaborate more. Maybe we can have a guest on that has some expertise in this space. Um, and to see what we can do, because I mean, we'll say, well, take it away from them, and then that becomes like a big problem, and now they're only focusing on the fact that you've done something. So how creative are they going to be? We need to implement uh things for them to gravitate towards, that are creative and on the outside in the real world, and have them want to do that, and you have to kind of like not manipulate, but manipulate in the good way. It's just wild. Kimberly says, I think about the bullies. They were real in person. To imagine those same bullies then, to have the power of social media, it would have been so much harder. Consider ourselves blessed, George and John. That's true. 100%. Um, bullying was just a thing. Now it's like bullies become like this crime where you can't bully people. And, the kids have become so weak. This is a whole other conversation, but they can't take it because they've been told they get the eighth place trophies, and they've been told they've been perfect, and you don't make mistakes, everything you do is perfect, and they've been given this false sense of even all the way up to college is like, I saw a college where they have safe spaces, and they have cafeterias, and the food is all included. They have couches if you want to take a nap during the day. They have all the I was like, what is this? And then they graduate college, and then they go into the real world, and the boss is like, yeah, you can't be 5 minutes late, bro. You got to show up. And they're like, oh, it's not fair. I work so hard. I'm like, bro, you haven't done anything. So this is something that's happening right now as well. Can social media be a part of that? Absolutely. I think it's part of the problem. It's not the whole problem. I think the school system is jacked up, but I think it's definitely part of the problem as well. Um, so let's see, where was I here? Oh yeah. So that without that boredom, Something important is missing. That quiet discomfort is what once pushed us to invent games, tell stories, pick up instruments, or dream up entire worlds. I remember just being so bored that I used to have this nativity scene, these little tiny statuettes of, like, Jesus and Mary and the three wise men and animals. And it was this nativity scene that my grandmother had. And I would grab that and I would just play, and I knew what the characters were, but I would change their names, and I would play and make imaginary stories and now as a filmmaker, that's my world that I can sit down and be like, I want to create this world and I want to create these characters and this is how they talk and this is how they behave and just write it in and write these amazing stories. It's one of those worlds that I remember still at my age now that I still think of fondly, and I still think it still shapes me today. You know, um, if every empty moment is filled for them, for kids, when do they learn to create for themselves? The challenge now isn't just about managing technology; it's about reclaiming that loss. It's about reclaiming that lost space, that silence where creativity is born. That's what we're trying to gain. It's we're trying to reclaim that space where creativity is born. And it's that space when nothing is happening. And I've been thinking of doing certain things like no social media, no screens Friday or no screens Wednesday or something where we all, including me, my wife, my kids, are off screens for 24 hours for one day. And except for Facebook, no, I'm just kidding. Completely off of everything for one full day and see how that goes. But I hope this subject can awaken a conversation for you and your family and your friends, and maybe even in your own content that you can just start creating those kinds of things on your own. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to look at what we're currently doing and see if we can have enough enough left where we can inspire these kids to have that space where they can create things and build the next future, imagine the next screenplay, the next themed album, the next genius musician that will put that time in. If you go on social media, you can see that there are musicians out there and they are doing well, and they are young kids playing incredible music right now. But the majority, that's just a very small minority that are out there doing that, and they're doing it and they're showing it on social media for a reason. Well, maybe it's time that we actually start pulling back on these slowly and start getting more and being more engaging with our children and being more connected to them, being more part of their lives, experiencing moments, going out, taking them out on weekends and doing actual physical activity things, taking drives to places and experiencing a waterfall and getting them, destimulated from the environment and have them focus on what's around and give them space so they can put out their points. Their space can expand so they can see the world is a big place and you have a lot of things to do in it. It's not within this little tiny box world that they're showing you. And doing that enough, I think, will be helpful, I feel, to them. All right, friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this morning. As always, I appreciate you here. This is such an affirmation for myself as well, having these conversations with you. And I just love doing it. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this now, if you're watching this later, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And as always,